Hi, everyone here and around the world. Good news again. We broke through 214,000 subscribers this week. Your love and enthusiasm for my Earth Files YouTube channel gives me the energy to do these weekly hours. So for those of you who might be new viewers and haven't subscribed, please click on that red rectangle at the bottom right of your screen. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us with YouTube. And keep letting me know if you like what I'm doing by clicking on that like button. On Monday, July 18, 2022, meteorologists were warning that a heat apocalypse was headed for Western France. And then UK's The Guardian warned that the heat apocalypse in Western France was forcing thousands to flee wildfires. Quote, more than 8,500 people fled their homes to escape a large wildfire sparked by the searing southern European heat wave that has already caused hundreds of deaths. Nearly 25,000 people were forced to abandon homes, rentals, and campsites for emergency shelters in western Bordeaux, France, while blazes in Spain, Portugal, and Greece have forced thousands more to flee fires, close quote. Yesterday, the UK Guardian reported, quote, temperature passes 40 degrees Celsius for first time. London Fire Brigade warns of huge surge in fires. London's Heathrow recorded hottest ever temperature, which reached 40.3 degrees Celsius, and that is 104.5 degrees Fahrenheit, the highest ever in the United Kingdom, close quote. Meanwhile, back in the United States, Politico reported last week that on Wednesday, July 13, 2022, quote, House votes to make it easier to report UFOs, close quote. Representative Mike Gallagher, shown here, said, quote, I believe it's possible that folks may be precluded from being fully transparent with Congress due to their being bound by non-disclosure agreements. If that's true, I want to make sure that there's no technical reason preventing them from speaking to us in Congress, close quote. Representative Gallagher's goal is to organize a new reporting system that will allow, quote, immediate sharing of information related to unidentified aerial phenomena or UAP/UFOs, previously prohibited from reporting under non-disclosure written or oral agreements, close quote. And that means legislating a kind of amnesty, an amnesty to tell the truth without penalty about, quote, any government or government contractor activity or program related to unidentified aerial phenomena, close quote. The U.S. Senate is also drafting their own UFO amnesty language. Congressional representatives know that the national security agencies don't report all the UFO/UAP information they have, and they don't share with Congress. But the truth is that the really secret files, all the special access programs and compartmented access programs, will not be included in the newly proposed weakening of non-disclosure agreements. Lou Elizondo, the new congressional said about the new congressional effort to loosen up more UFO/UAP information that was provoked. He said, as a director of ATIP in the Pentagon between 2007 and 2012, quote, this effort by Representative Gallagher might open the floodgates, close quote, for more whistleblowers to come forward with UFO/UAP information. ATIP was the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program in the Pentagon, and that focused on UAP/UFOs between 2007 and 2012. The truth is that many UFOs are advanced technologies from other solar systems, even other galaxies. described by people in the Human Abduction Syndrome and confidentially by military, aerospace, medical, and science experts who are paid to study UFO technologies and wide variety of entities. But official policies are always, the public must never know. Those entrenched policies of denials and outright lies about the presence of advanced technologies and intelligences on Earth began in World War II. In the 1940s, there were many reports of mysterious, glowing Foo Fighters in the skies reported by pilots who did not know what they were. In the past 80 years, UFOs and extraterrestrial biological entities in those UFOs have been relegated to the most top-secret files, including files about extraterrestrial biological entities known as EBENs. Their skin has always been reported as grayish in color, but on July 6th, I reported that my military aerospace source explained, quote, "What witnesses mistakenly take for a gray being's gray color is a special type of nanotechnology of woven material very similar to Kevlar, like a police vest. The suit functions as a type of exoskeleton to supplement the poor muscle mass ratio of these beings. It also has a secondary function of sensory awareness of the environment. It is woven to the being before flight and kept on while out on assignments. AI biological clone grays keep the suit on almost their entire lifespan," close quote. Since showing you this photo 2 weeks ago that my military aerospace source sent me a year ago in 2021 to show me the cream-colored skin that my source says is beneath the gray nanotechnology bodysuits. I also showed this four-fingered hand that might be a second gray being retrieved from a UFO crash on the Peru-Brazil border. These are actually referred to as orange grays because their pale skin has an orange hue under certain light frequencies. Since my July 6th and 13th Earth Files YouTube broadcasts, I have been shown the same orange-gray photos on a Brazilian website that is in Portuguese. The year of the website's creation was 2007, but I have never heard of it before the past few days and have never seen the orange-gray photos until 2021, a year ago, when they were sent to me by my military aerospace source as a reality check on what actual orange-gray type extraterrestrials look like. I never showed anyone those photos until July 6th, 2 weeks ago. Never knew anything about the Brazil website. I don't know any other UFO researcher who has ever brought it up or said that they knew anything about these photos. Given this new controversy about the Brazilian website, I reached out to remote viewer D.B. Bolton, also known as Buddy, who you've seen work with me before and is a very talented remote viewer. This week, I asked him if he would remote view the orange-gray, black-eyed head photo and the four-fingered orange-gray hand, specifically on the question, what does he see through remote viewing in this ET death?
I went over the first photographs, which are clearly an extraterrestrial, and I felt that they were not only real, but I got a whole sense of the history. It's from the Brazil-Peru border, and I felt that Brazilian artist was paid and try to claim that it was his to muddle the field. This is a powder keg. UFOs are the highest level of secrecy, the most secret of the secret stuff. But within that, the most secret of the most secret is the biologicals. And what we have done to them, and that they're here, they're in bases, and they're still being studied.
And they're being shot down by us.
Yes, and that Peru program has multiple military witnesses who are involved. The program has these lasers. The US and the superpowers are focused on technology. The more technology, they can have an advantage versus the enemy. All that stuff goes immediately into the darkest, most secret programs. And so the hope has always been by the government. And the reason why this program in South America exists is to shoot them down, to get the material, to study, to reverse engineer it. And the most likely priority would be weapons. Nanomaterial, invisible to all sensors, hypersonic qualities that the extraterrestrial craft have. But the most powerful thing about these craft isn't the technology within them. It's that these are physical things that cannot be denied, that can convince society there's another whole universe, a rainforest of life forms out there.
Can you explain to the general audience what it is that you have accessed in either astral projection or controlled remote viewing about those photos, the two of which I have shown, that you feel confident in saying these are real biological beings?
They're mission specific designs. The craft are mission specific. And this particular one, there was 3 of these type and a tall Nordic. Oftentimes, different cases where there will be grays and one leader, which is generally a tall white or a Nordic. And that was the case with this craft. And this particular extraterrestrial was in charge of security.
You're talking about that large-headed, solid, black-eyed photograph
Yes.
that has the orange label that goes with Wright
Yes.
Patterson, and then the 4-fingered hand. And you're saying that was a being in a craft that was responsible for security for who?
Security for the mission. This has been going on for a while there off of Peru. And I drew a little map. It shows that there is a base off the coast of Peru where these craft have been flying into the rainforest, and they've been doing it for a long time. The ocean base in the Pacific Ocean there is right next to a giant site for manganese nodules. And also, interestingly enough, right off of Catalina Island, there's a space called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone that is filled with manganese nodules.
And the implication would be that the ETs use manganese.
Not just manganese, but these nodules have a bunch of rare metals in them.
And this is quoting you to me, quote, "So the program shot the UFO down with a very powerful plasma laser and the tracking network devoted to spot camouflaged craft." Can you explain that?
It's not a red laser like laser pointer. It has much more energy, and so much energy, it's almost invisible. And they have a new exotic power system to power this laser. You can imagine if you want to have a super powerful laser in the middle of the rainforest, it would have to have its own contained power system. It would have to be very powerful. And they have this system. And so the craft was hit. It hit in an important structural area. And it was trying to speed away once it was being shot at. And it hit this rocky outcropping and broke up into pieces. And that's why the bodies are damaged. This plasma laser cannon was new. It was a new installation.
Meaning that the United States had a technology that they had not used on ETs before this particular shoot down and these particular photos?
Correct. These extraterrestrials are studying and gathering data. Data is more powerful than gold and diamonds, and they're getting data from life forms. Life is a very dense form of data. So they've been going to the rainforest again and again and again, and it's gotten its own name, this path that they've been taking, the UFO highway. This goes over the Nazca lines. And the very first things that were made in the Nazca lines were these geoglyphs of animals. And these animals are drawn in a way that they cannot be for someone looking at them from a mountain. They're drawn from the perspective of straight up in the sky, as if the early tribes people saw them, saw the craft going over, and was drawing these for them. There's even a drawing, one of the earliest drawings is called the astronaut, and he has one arm pointing up. And that's why they put the animals there, thinking that maybe the craft that are flying over wanted animals or were interested in the animals. Their perspectives are for those above, and they're so large on the ground, you can't see most of them.
You wrote to me, interestingly, there was a Nordic, a blonde, blue-eyed being on this craft originally. He was the mission leader. Somehow he was not recovered, meaning he was not among the bodies of which we have the two photographs of the head and the hand. Where do you see the Nordic interacting with the Greys? And today we are told by whistleblowers that the Nordics and the tall whites are working together to try to protect humans. So why would the United States have ever shot down a craft that had a Nordic in it?
Because shoot downs have been known there by the extraterrestrials, but they want to finish the mission. The Nordic had some sort of escape plan or pod or something where he escaped. I also got that there were two probes, circular grayish probes that also in the impact, they were in like a casing and the casing opened and those two circular probes were not recovered as far as I can tell from my viewings. So the Nordic escaped and the two circular probes escaped.
But the bottom line is that you are seeing that a Nordic was working with the Greys in this particular craft that was brought down, of which I have the two photos, the hand and the head, by two authorities, that those are real photographs taken in Wright-Patterson during autopsies. Those are the Greys. The blonde somehow escaped an escape pod, perhaps, that you remote viewed.
Correct.
Why today in 2022 would the picture that seems to be being painted is that our allies are Nordics and tall whites. Without them, humanity might not have survived. How do you square that with our shooting down a UFO that contained a Nordic?
I don't know. The US has always prioritized reverse engineering of other technologies from other countries. When they notice another country had a great jet fighter, they'd want to recover it and reverse engineer it. So you could imagine how much more so they would want to reverse engineer advanced technologies from non-terrestrials.
And this would be the main reason why the power brokers of the world have wanted to keep humans from knowing anything about the presence of UFOs and ETs. It was try to get technological gain and nobody know what was happening. Now we are in 2022 where there seems to be an inertial push now to open up. We're not alone in the universe, and it could happen by this coming spring of 2023, according to my military aerospace source, that there appears to be a plan to use the Webb telescope, probably aiming at a planet or a solar system, perhaps TRAPPIST-1 that you did such great remote viewing on, and that they would report back to the world that they now had the signatures through the Webb telescope to support life, and that that's how they would open up the truth, quote unquote. But you and I are now talking about the evidence of the shoot down of a craft that contained extraterrestrial biological entities, the Nordic and Greys, and that our government has known the truth since World War II.
Unquestionably. And this is so ironic on so many levels. You know, in the past, in the 40s, in the 50s, 60s, they would constantly deny that UFOs existed. They don't exist because they were trying to reverse engineer this stuff. And now all of a sudden, they're saying that this stuff exists. And I think it's because they're now flying some of this technology and they want to throw out UFO as another distraction. We're reverse engineering. They're saying, no, it doesn't exist. And then now that they've reverse engineered and some of the US anti-gravity stuff is flying, and when it's seen, they can now say, oh, it's not US technology. This is aliens. There's always some sort of cover. And this crash material from this, I saw it go on a path to Homestead Air Force Base, got refueled in the Caribbean. And then from there, it went directly to Wright-Patterson, and the parts, everything was disseminated. Most of the biological stayed at Wright-Pat. Wright-Pat has a biological medical laboratory on the third floor down. It was revealed, this biological laboratory at Wright-Patterson, in one of these congressional budget documents. There's a line item in there for it.
And that these two photos that have become controversial It underscores, buddy, that the United States has had layers and layers and layers of counterintelligence to counter every single thing that has emerged about extraterrestrials going all the way back to World War II.
Absolutely. It's all for weapons.
What is your bottom line perspective on the photograph of the elongated head with the black eyes and the four-fingered hand?
It's real. And I have no question of that in my mind and in my heart. It is the closest, the most detailed, and the best extraterrestrial photo that's out there.
And as I was working on this show today for you tonight, I just kept thinking over and over, why is reality classified on Earth? That's sort of the existence we live in, that all of these realities of being in a universe that is teeming with conscious life. And we're on a planet where the reality is defined for us by power brokers as something X. Wonder what it would be like to be on Earth where reality wasn't classified. Ian, I am very interested in how many, and I don't know how to do this, but I'm very interested in whether or not we could have a quick chat poll of how many people looking at the orange-gray being sense or think or get some input about how real it is as opposed to an artist's creation. I would love to know a poll through the chat. Is that possible?
Well, there's no voting available actually on here at the moment, unless Eric pulls something off the other end. I'm not sure how to do that, but we'll see if we can do that. Anyway, people could give us their comments and let us know through the chat as we go.
Yeah. So I think that this whole issue of why is reality classified, it is a profound question. And why does it persist? And I throw it to you, dear Ian, for comments and questions.
Okay, here's a few comments from people. We've had one comment here from Fernando Menendez, who's in Brazil. He's actually a super chat as well. He says, many UFO sightings being reported in Brazil in the last few weeks, including here in my hometown, São Luís Maranhão. Is it going on throughout South America, he says?
Yes, and I have talked just in the last 2 weeks with people who are retired from the Pentagon, but they still have communication. And they are saying that probably the most active place on the planet right now is the Brazil area, maybe Brazil to Peru, that area exactly, as Buddy remote viewed in when he was concentrating on the, we'll call it the long-headed orange-gray photo and the hand, and that he had this impression of that corridor that goes over the plains of Nazca, Peru, and into Brazil, and that there is tremendous activity. And I know from some of the people that I met when I was working on my Antarctica documentary that had served in SEALs or Marines or various units, specifically that had been based in Colombia and Central America and down south. And I got the impression that one of the most constantly active areas on Earth having to do with measuring technology, measuring the frequencies when they can be measured, it is becoming very clear to me that there is an elevation in the technological advancements of a lot of these craft in which they are truly invisible. But that if you said, is there one place on Earth that has had almost consistent activity for a very long time, it would be Brazil, Peru area.
Yeah, and also we've got people in tonight from Argentina, and I know that the Argentina is also synonymous with the cattle mutilation and trackless, bloodless animal mutilation phenomena as well.
Very good point. Argentina, for reasons unknown, of all of the South American, Central American, and Mexico, in my files going back to the late 80s on, where I used to collect a lot of reports from people that I kept in communication with in Brazil, and that Argentina really ended up having more cases. And once I remember having a discussion with an investigator why in that South America area, where you have Peru and you have Brazil, and they are both known for a lot of UFOs, but it was Argentina that had the most number of animal mutilations in my records at the time. I have no answer for why, but I think it's fair to say South America on the planet is tremendously active with other intelligences coming and going, and probably based under all of it.
Okay, we've got some comments coming in, and we've also posted the poll, and the poll is currently stating 78% believing it is real. Jessica Rodriguez from Massachusetts says the hand looks real, Pitt, for sure, but the head was probably drawn to go with the hand.
No, the head is not drawn. That's not.
So we've got a poll going at the moment, Linda, at the top of the screen on the chat.
Oh, and 78% said.
It's changing as we go, as people are voting and contributing to the poll at the moment. It's currently on 77% for real.
Well, yeah, I personally have no doubt that because of the discussions that I've had with people about this over the last week, who live and breathe and work in this, that from their point of view, these are real. That these photos were taken in the Wright-Patterson Biological Lab, 3 stories underground, exactly as Buddy reported. And that I've had a kind of an education about how various, if it's craft, the craft go to another facility, probably in southern Utah. If it's biologicals, over the history going back since when Wright-Patterson was Wright-Patterson from Wright Field, that biologicals went to Wright-Patterson for autopsies. And I have found that in several interviews that I have done. And then there would be new advanced technologies go to another location. And so the United States has a distribution of various investigations going on all the time. And as far as I know, that it is JSOC that is the overseer of all of these different units.
Okay, Linda, we've had Sarah Keller again saying, Linda, it looks exactly like the aliens that abducted me. How can anyone just make it up?
Right. It's because we have been sold that a classified reality. And the truth is that extraterrestrial biological entities in a variety of forms have been interacting with this planet. I swear that 270 million years is at least one number that you can take to the bank. It may have been earlier for different types. But we are truly just starting to wake up to an unclassified reality. That's what we're going through. And the fact that people are now saying, well, that does look like somebody that I saw in the bedroom, car, on the lake, over the boat, whatever it is, it's because real extraterrestrial civilizations have been mining this planet. They have been harvesting genetic material. They mix and match all kinds of genetic life forms to make new life forms experimental, and we're one of those. And right now, I think a lot of people have the existential question on their mind, our 8 billion Homo sapiens sapien going to make it through this rocky decade or two to survival on Earth in cooperation and peace with each other and with collaboration with the planet, so that we are not going to forevermore be declining and deteriorating with entropy toward our own self-annihilation. To me, it's beginning to be writ large that this is what we are moving into. And I really do think that abductees who say that they have had telepathic downloads, whether it was with a tall white or a Nordic or a gray or a praying mantis, that and Ian, there's a lot of noise coming from your mic. That there have been a lot of foreshadowings in people, whether they've been abducted or whether they're face to face, exactly about this issue of, can humanity, like a laboratory experiment, live past the stage where the population basically kills itself out of overpopulation and greed and all of that? And I really do think that there are beings out there like the tall whites and the Nordics that are trying to help. And that helps keep me going. So I hope it helps you keep going too. So what else, Ian?
Chad Young says in the chat, my grandfather was a government man. He leased a 6,000-acre ranch on the lower, I guess it's Pecos. I guess that's in Texas. Took me there every summer, and I just found the photographs after all these years. There's one with craft and EBEs. He says he's going to contact us later with more information.
Would you please ask him, when he says EBEs, that's extraterrestrial biological entities, does he mean that he now has a photograph that was taken a few decades ago that has EBENs, extraterrestrial biological entities, in the photograph with a UFO?
Yeah, Chad, if you're listening still, post us more information. He does say that he's going to contact us via email, and he does say he has photographs, but he hasn't given any more information at this stage.
All right. What else have we got?
Okay. Linda, we've got a question from Tony Brooklyn. He says, ask Linda if she has a copy of the Yellow Book. If so, I'm trying to get a copy.
Well,
No.
let me...
I'm so confused about the Yellow Book.
Yeah, let me
whether or not this is a book about the Yellow Book or the so-called Yellow Book that the ETs are supposed to have given.
Ian, my first introduction to the Yellow Book was in 1983, April 9th, at that meeting out here at Kirtland Air Force Base when I was working on the HBO documentary. And that was in a discussion with Richard Doty, the AFOSI agent, who had some information, a little bit about some of the technology that we have recovered and tried to understand and back engineer, exactly as Buddy was stressing in the segment tonight. And that he had some information about the Yellow Book. I have talked with others who have been briefed or oriented about how to hold the Yellow Book that is in some vault somewhere in Washington or underground at Wright Pat or somewhere. And as I understand it, in the briefest way possible, the closest technology that we would have would be the iPad. I'm not saying it's that crude, but it is something that is like 7x9 or something around there, and that the beings know how to grasp it with their hands, and that you have to have education about how to move on spots. And if you learn how to do it, depending upon how much in the infinite reservoir that is in each of these Yellow Books, that you can select a subject, and then when the subject, whatever, however it comes, you can select to look at it in 3D hologram or holoform. And I have talked with 3 people who have held what is called the Yellow Book. And why is it called the Yellow Book? Because when you are in graphic, symbols, letters, math, that area, they glow yellow. What you're working with glows yellow. Like it would be, we would read a book, instead of black type, it would glow yellow on some other background surface. So it is not paper of any kind. It is all advanced holography coming out of this device that can, when it's not in operation, would be like maybe holding an iPad, and that you can go into all kinds of areas like history. I ask about various parts of history. Have some of these people investigated with the current yellow book or yellow books that we have retrieved, or maybe we've been given as a gift. One person said we were given one as a gift. And that let's say that you wanted to investigate what is the housing like for Ebens on Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2. And you know how to make the yellow book these different angles and tactile things. And then you can make it all come up and you can see it. And what else have we been exposed to in public social media that is like that? It's Princess Leia in Star Wars with her holographic communicator. It may be that they took the idea from somebody who said, hey, you need to include this, what the Yellow Book by the real ETs can do.
Linda, I've got the super chats to do now. We've got such a lot of super chats to get through tonight. Here we go. Moonbird.
Oh, Moonbird, hi.
Annabelle Solan. Sarah Underwood. Sarah Enrique. Dave Goodrich. Mark Francis 076. Jessica Rodriguez. Renee Martin. Caroline Boyce. Goldie Oviedo Baroa from the Philippines. Rosanna Rigby. Kelvin Mack. Whisper of Love. Fernando Menezes. Linda Emeterio. Shane Payne. Matt Gavan. Fid69. Tim Camden. And Sherry Michelle. Thank you.
And thank you, Ian, for all of the pronunciations, and thank you, everyone. It means so much to having the energy to do these weekly programs, to know how many of you communicate how much this program means to you. I can't thank you enough. I feel like I am in a field and the grass is up to my shoulders, and that I am trying to see where to walk, what to look for in this big field of this tall grass, and that with every step, I'm putting down some grass that gives me a little bit clearer vision, and that somehow I am walking through that grass trying to get to an open field. And that when I get to the open field, I should be in a world where we know, and it's public and it's everywhere, that we're not alone in this universe, and that there will be the excitement of evolving in tremendous new knowledge about ourselves on this planet, about this solar system, about what is in and on other planets and other moons. This is a reality that is real, and I don't think anybody should be classifying it. So thank you.
Okay, Linda, we've got a question here from Filippo Balbus. Says, please explain your statement of entropy and deterioration.
Down with entropy, up with light, that's on my t-shirts. It goes all the way back to 2004 when I moved from Philadelphia here to Albuquerque to get away from flooding, incessant flooding and black mold. And it was a period of time where global warming seemed to be taking hold with floods constantly in Philadelphia. And I wanted to come to the desert where my brother lived, and I'd been here quite often. And it was one day, I was working at my desk, and there was some kind of a problem that I either was having with the computer or something. And I remember thinking, why do things always seem to deteriorate, or why is there so many things that don't work? Why are we not on a planet where everything would be moving forward constantly in positive energy to get things done, to improve everything? And what popped in my head, and maybe it was placed by, I don't know, the divine field, something, and it just came into my head. Down with entropy, up with light. That's exactly what I was contemplating on, and this came in. And I wrote down on a notebook of things to do. I want to do t-shirts with down with entropy, up with light. That was 2004. We didn't do the t-shirts until 2017, I think it was, or 18. But there is in that down with entropy, up with light. Maybe it is a kind of melancholy angst of every conscious life form that is biological. Because there is something about being in biological consciousness in the matter world where you can't just do that and have everything change, which it's been suggested that on other dimensions it's faster and things transition in these fantastic ways. Whereas here, we have to constantly work. We have to constantly move in processes. And it may be that down with entropy, which means down with deterioration, down with death, down with the decline of energy, down with things falling apart. That's what down with entropy means. Up with light, that's where, to me, is the thought that dwells in the light. That every single morning with the sun on my face, I say how much I love that thought in the light. And somewhere in between those two, entropy and the light, are all these other discussions that we've had about the yin and the yang. Why are we in a universe that seems so pitted between black and white? Why isn't it all just gloriously evolving and constantly with love and light and energy and creation and not problems? And every time I say that to some of my truly profound philosophical friends, they always say, without resistance, you have no growth. So maybe that's true. But down with entropy, up with light. That's my goal and wish.
Thank you, Linda. Could you tell us about your appearance on Jimmy Church's radio show tomorrow?
He and I have not talked beyond communication and email. Can you do my show on the 21st of July? And there are so many things constantly that I'm investigating and talking about. And Jimmy and I always have a great time talking every time we do a radio interview. And so it's like with him, we don't even much check in about what are we going to talk about. He'll have some subjects and I'll have some thoughts. And please, everybody, come tomorrow night to the Jimmy Church live radio with me. And I'm not sure what we'll end up talking about.
Okay, so people go to Fade to Black tomorrow and listen to Linda on Fade to Black. Thank you. Okay, Linda, what did you find out about the gnome in Pennsylvania captured on the game cam several years ago? And is it related to perhaps Skinwalker Ranch special effects happening with portals?
What was the first sentence? Was it something that was brought up last week?
I think there was I remember it as one of your Earth Files reports on the website. It was about the gnome in Pennsylvania that was captured on the game cam.
I remember I've had several game videos, or those cameras used to watch for game, in which there have been several different, I'm remembering, where there's been like an oval that moved right up to the lens. It was clear as day. It was an oval about like this, and it moved right up to the lens, and then it went over the lens. In terms of, I think what they're referring to, it was sent to me as this may be a game camera infrared of a baby Sasquatch. And I remember that one. It wasn't absolutely bottom line clear, but I probably, last week, you probably sent that to me, but I have been working so much on all this other that I didn't go into and get into all of what was sent. So what you can do is send it to me with the detail. I'll go back into Earth Files, and next week we can do it as you can ask me the question and I'll have all the details.
Linda, we're getting some questions about where people can get your books from. If you can just reiterate again where people can get your books from.
Go to earthfiles.com, and on the right it says Earth Files Shop. Click on there, and all my work is all listed, including the T-shirts with Down with Light, Down with Entropy, Up with Light. And to those of you who write me and say, I just saw one of your first editions of An Alien Harvest on sale on eBay for $2,500. It has nothing to do with me. Somebody said, well, it's a backhanded compliment that your work has held up and people are seeing how true it is, and it's all becoming more and more real as the time goes on, that your work was accurate right from the beginning. And so it has taken on a value, but I have nothing to do with it. My books, my documentaries have sold at approximately the same price. It's shipping that has continued to go up for a very long time. And it's easy, it goes through PayPal. And I recommend that you go to the Earthfile shop and take a look at everything. And I love it when people get my work and then email back and say, would you please, and then they will give me questions about things that they've had as a residue from looking at the books or the videos. And it is true, it is really true that all of that work that I began in 1979, investigating animal mutilations, and now it's 2022, 43 years later. If you get into the depths of everything, the books and the documentaries, looking back from where I am now, how truly valuable, how valid the information is and applies now. And that when there are animal mutilations on ranches now, and I'm talking to a veterinarian or a sheriff or a rancher who is in their 30s or 40s, and they have not dealt with animal mutilations before, and I send them an alien harvest, I always get a call back, and they are shocked and stunned, but it helps generate the value of you need to investigate, you need to be looking for a hemoglobin that has been cooked on the edges. You need to be looking for missing organs inside of animals in which there's no surgery on the surface of the animal. You need to be looking for various places on the animal where there might be an implant, exactly as people in the abduction category will have implants, and some people don't, but some do. And a very interesting side note, it was about 3 years ago, and there was a fresh mutilation, and I think it was in Michigan. And I got to talk with a man who was investigating, and he had never been on a mutilation before, and he was asking me for guidance. And he went back out to the animal to do I think it was to get a certain cut around the mutilator's cut. And as he was bending down with the, whether it was scissors or a scalpel, he saw something move under the hide. And when he went to reach with his fingers just to pull the hide up, he saw an object move, and it started moving away from him. And he called me and he said, I figured it had to come out of this animal someplace, but Linda, it moved. It moved for a long distance, and it's still under that hide. And we talked about getting the animal to a veterinarian to look, and I think that he did. And then there was nothing. And we're dealing with advanced technology that is self-activating software. It knows how to think in its goals, where it is. It knows that if somebody is coming where it is near, it's going to move, and they may have the ability of taking off, which might explain why some people look for these after they've seen them move and they can't find them. Maybe they disappear, it's not clear. But that's, to me, for those of you who are really seriously interested in the evolution of this phenomena from the 20th century and World War II up to where we are now and going forward, I hope you will get all of my work. And it's done to help people understand the truth of what is going on. That's always mattered to me, the pressure of fact and truth. Okay.
Sexy Sadie says, Linda, of all your books that you've written, do you have a favorite?
The one that goes into the most complex, difficult material in a deep dive way all the way through the book is Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 2. But in a way, when I think about my own life work experience and evolution, I started with animal mutilations and all that led to in terms of human abductions and the beams that transport up matter into craft, all of it. And my first book, An Alien Harvest, it's huge. It's almost 500 pages. It's got 4-color all the way through. It has more mutilation photographs than I think anything, and they're not bloody. There's nothing about it that is gory. That has always been the hallmark. The sheriffs have said there's no blood. It's also pristine. That's what unnerved them in the beginning. So going through An Alien Harvest is like the first chapter book of my relationship with the phenomena. And then came abductees. And my life became just constantly interviewing abductees and getting illustrations and trying to understand what the difference was between these types of intelligences abducting people of this type and all the different shades. Why did they do one thing with one person and not another, and so forth? That led to, and crop circles. Crop circles and abductions. I was doing a tremendous amount of work on both of them in the 1990s. And that led to Volume 1, Glimpses of Other Realities, that came out in 93, end of 93. And then it took me 5 more years to finish Glimpses Volume 2, which all of those 3 books are animal mutilations, human abductions, crop circles, interaction with all kinds of energy systems, various beings, what the abductees have been shown in movies in their head about what the non-humans are trying to communicate, the grand scheme that we're on a planet that is a laboratory, that there are beginnings and endings, but that there are invested interests in trying to help humanity and Homo sapien prove to doubting ETs in a council somewhere that we are extraordinary beings with extraordinary souls. This comes up in the abductions, especially in Glimpses Volume 2, and that there are other beings who think we should be annihilated, but there are others that have a vested interest in us. And that is, if when you get down to the documentaries, A Strange Harvest 1993, Göbekli Tepe, and Antarctica, Alien Secrets Beneath the Ice. So none of them are about the same anything. Every one of them evolves. And now I wish that I could do a trip in one of our Space Force spaceships and go out to Ganymede and go out to the TRAPPIST and keep going for another 100, 200 years and keep reporting solar system news and then Milky Way galactic news. I love the exploration of all of this. And it is the mystery and the unknown and the black versus white profound challenge, and wanting to understand it, and wanting us as humans to be able to embrace each other in agape love as a being with a soul in a universe that is conscious. The universe is conscious. And hopefully we will get to a point where this planet will know endless peace because it comes into resonance with the thought that dwells in the light. That's my wish for all of you. May the fires and the heat in Europe go away. May the fires and heat in the United States go away. And I love you. See you next week.
Turn on closed captions for YouTube videos by clicking the white CC button on the lower right. The default language for Linda's videos is English. If you would like to see the captions in another language, click on the white Settings button next to the CC button. Select Subtitles CC and then select Auto Translate. Select a language, and the captions will now appear in that language.
Sort of gone through, and they will hold their heads. I never had a cat do that before. And they'll pull against the comb, helping me get out snarls. And I think it's the best they've ever been.